I'm going to assume that you want your mixes to sound professional, competitive, exciting. You want them to sound just as good as what you hear on the radio or on Spotify. And you're constantly trying to figure out what guys like CLA and Nolly and Manny American and Zach Cervini, what are they doing to get these amazing mixes? Well, this channel exists to help you with that, but I want to show you some of the comments that I've been getting. In real life, raw tracks don't sound this good, vastly misleading. It's easy for CLA because they usually get first-class recordings. Wouldn't we all love our raw tracks to sound that good? The general idea with these comments is that you can't apply what I'm teaching or what CLA or these other big names are doing because your raw tracks are not as high quality as theirs. And I sense a bit of a complaining tone behind these comments, like they're saying, hey, it's not fair. Of course their mixes sound great because they get tracks from the best producers and they already sound great to begin with. So Jordan, how about you give us a real world example? The thing is, they're right. Those source tracks are great, but they're saying it as if that's a problem. It's like they're assuming that mediocre amateur source tracks are the standard, while great source tracks are this rare exception or this privilege that is reserved for the elite. And that is missing the whole point. So yes, the best mixes do have the best source tracks, and that is the lesson. That is the whole point. And instead of complaining or giving up because it's not fair comparing their source tracks to yours, you need to see the real lesson behind that, which is that you need to have better source tracks. And this is something you can achieve even if you're not Butch Vig working with the big budget records and all-star bands. And I'll use myself as an example. If you were to open up my sessions, you would find that the raw tracks are very well done and easy to mix. You know, they're tight, they're clean, the tones are good to begin with. So if you just put the faders up with minimal processing, it's already gonna sound pretty great. I'm gonna go to Pro Tools and show you some real examples of that. Before I do, I just wanna make sure you know about my free mixing cheat sheet that you can download. It's got all the go-to starting points for EQ and compression for every track in your mix, so you don't have to feel like you're guessing about where to reach for certain frequencies or EQ or compression. So you can grab that, there's a link below, or you can go right to mixcheatsheet.com. All right, here's one of my tracking sessions. This is not a final mix session. Here's what it sounds like. Here's the drums, guitars. I mean, the guitars, there's just a high pass filter on them. The drums, yeah, there's a few plugins. Obviously, I'm adding a bit of EQ and compression as we're going along tracking with the band because I want it to sound a little closer to a final record, but there's not a ton on here. I mean, the vocals, just an SSL channel. Now, let's check out the final mix. Unmixed. Final mix. All right, so that's one example. I'm gonna load up another session here. All right, here's another tracking session. This one has even less. There's hardly anything on the drums, nothing on the bass, nothing on the guitars, one plugin on the vocals. Here's what it sounds like. Here's the final mix. Unmixed. Final mix. Now here's the thing, these were not pro bands. These were local bands, just guys in their early 20s or even teenagers in some cases. They're not full-time touring bands or professional artists. And the reason I could still get these results is because I never use the band as my standard. I use pro records as my standard, and I figured out how to reach that standard not just in mixing, but in the tracking and editing stages as well. And once I learned that, it really didn't matter who I was working with. You know, I could just do whatever was required to get their tones and their performances to hit that standard before mixing, because I knew that that was the only way to get the pro mix that I wanted in the end. That's why more than 5 years ago, I stopped selling individual mixing courses, because you can never reach a pro quality record no matter how many mixing techniques I teach you. It has to be great right from the tracking stage. It's all about what we call being a full stack producer, which means you can take any project with any band and be in confident control of the tracking, editing, and mixing stages, and end up with a pro standard record every single time. So when people come to us looking for training and help to getting their mixes to sound pro, we don't just teach them mixing stuff, we take them back through the entire process. So yes, it's true, the best mixers do work with the best source tracks, but that's not some unfair advantage that they got lucky with. It's the biggest lesson that you can learn and the biggest change that you need to make if your work isn't sounding as good as theirs yet. Don't just give up like this person here. Instead, commit to learning how to do this yourself so that you have the same unfair advantage that they have. And that's when your final mixes are gonna start blowing people away. You can get started by leveling up your guitar tracks at the source by watching this video next.